I have Sushant Sareen also joining us from New Delhi, a very renowned strategic affairs expert. Sushant, I have a confirmation coming in from Shershaw, who's been reporting on the story. In fact, he told us about 90 minutes ago that this meeting had happened. We were waiting for some confirmations to come in, and we have a confirmation now that Iran mediated a meeting between Ahmad Massoud, the resistance front, and the Taliban minister. What, in your view, is going on?
I think a lot of things are going on right now. I think at one level, the Iranians are trying to effect some kind of a reconciliation. But I think this is still early days. I don't think any deal is in the offing immediately. But I think what they're trying to do is effect some kind of a reconciliation. You would remember that when the Taliban started moving into the Panjshir Valley, everybody else in the world was quiet. It was only the Iranians who expressed severe displeasure over what was happening. So the Iranians are very invested in what is happening in Afghanistan, number one. Number two, the Iranians are very unhappy, and they made it known when some of the Taliban commanders who were close to the Iranians were kept out of the interim government that was first announced. And later on, many of those people were accommodated in the political hierarchy of the Taliban regime. So the Iranians cannot be discounted. And what they are now doing is they are playing a role in trying to effect some kind of a reconciliation, some kind of a accommodation within the Taliban ranks. I'm not very sure if this will go down very well with the Pakistanis, especially when the Iranians have also said that we are ready to open up our routes for India to supply humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan. At the same time, we don't know whether there is some larger agenda also which is at play, perhaps to sideline the Pakistanis and their proxies, which are the Haqqani network, who have taken control of Kabul. And the Pakistanis are trying to call the shots in Kabul through the Haqqani. Maybe there is some play on that as well. But like I said, this is very, very early days. These kind of talks and these kind of meetings to effect some kind of reconciliation have happened even in the past, in the 1990s. At that point of time, the Pakistanis were taking the lead. People would meet, there would be consultations, there would be certain understandings reached, but those understandings never really fructified beyond a point. And in fact, very often those understandings were observed more in their violation than in their observance. So we don't know if we are moving in that direction. But there is that very tantalizing possibility of the people down south, in south of the Kandaharis as they are called, who are not very well disposed towards the Haqqani network, who have actually violated many of the understandings and taken control of Kabul and surrounding areas. And they are also the people, the Haqqanis, who are very closely linked to the Pakistanis on one hand, but also very closely linked with international terror groups like the Al-Qaeda and others. They are also the people who have maximum number who have been proscribed by the UN and other international agencies and countries. So, frankly, the Taliban will not have a future if the Haqqanis continue to call the shots.
In fact, I was going to ask you that question next. Sushant, in fact, I wanted to ask you that question because last night we had an update that Iran has stepped forward and, and told India that they would be giving any sort of assistance in moving humanitarian aid into Afghanistan after what Pakistan has tried to do. I want you to stay with me. Just stay with me for about 30 seconds more, Sushant. I want to get in a word from Shershaw, also joining us live. He's in Kabul. Shershaw, now, very interesting mention that Sushant made was also about the dynamics between the Taliban and Pakistan. Now, something seems to be churning in Afghanistan. We've seen the videos of what's going on vis-a-vis the border. Pakistan also being forced to acknowledge that they have an issue with the border with Afghanistan and the Taliban. So there is tension. Where does this dynamic leave Pakistan, especially after this meeting between Ahmad Massoud, who's a staunch critic of Pakistan, along with the Taliban minister?
Well, actually, There is no doubt that Pakistan is still a major party in the issue of Afghanistan, and still the group is trying to play double games with the Taliban. And there are some news reports earlier that the Taliban has now splitted the Taliban regime into three groups, and they are looking to engage more with Haqqani network and at the same time with the defense minister Mullah Yaqub. So still there is no doubt that the Taliban is willing to have its own pressures on the Taliban at any cost. But the major issue that actually the broader group is having with the Taliban is this, that they are not going to do whatever the Pakistan wants, but the Pakistanis are trying to influence on the Taliban. On the other hand, there are some exploitations among the Taliban lower-ranking forces, for example, those Taliban which are based in the border areas. They are not accepting the bars and the fencing issue which has been made in the borders of Afghanistan. So still this issue is confirmed that the Taliban are trying to get back on the track and to show the people that we are just an impartial group and we are the leaders of Afghanistan. But yet there are some concerns and consequences that now the world and at the same time the Afghans themselves are trying to ask the Taliban to form a conclusive government, an inclusive government with the NRFA forces and others. So the major issue is this, that this meeting was held on how to form the inclusive government, but according to the sources among the NRFA forces, they are asking the Taliban that they should leave Kabul at any cost. And at the meantime, they are asking the Taliban to form an interim government, and after that they should go for the election. But the Taliban believes that they have taken the power by force, and they are not going to give those people who were a part of the government in the past, and they are not willing to give them this opportunity to get back on track in the government. So yet the Pakistanis have their influence on the Taliban, and mainly they are looking to separate the Taliban, to divide the Taliban and major groups. But at the same time, the Taliban's bigger challenge is this, that their low-ranking fighters do not accept all the issues that all the decisions that has been made by their leaders on the ground.
Thank you so much. Let me see if Sushant is there with me. I'll quickly get 30 seconds, a response from him, and then we'll end this conversation. Sushant, in your view, how do you think Pakistan will respond to this?
I think they'll respond with a fair degree of caution, but they will also be kind of concerned that their entire play of the last 20 years could start unraveling. Because many of the assumptions are already proving to be false, including the assumptions which they had made and the lies, and I repeat, the lies which the Pakistanis had spread, that the TTP is entirely an Indian-sponsored and an NDA-sponsored entity, but the TTP has become even more powerful after the Taliban has come into power, and everybody knew that the TTP and Taliban were two sides of the same coin. So many of the assumptions of the Pakistan, when their own economy is in a crisis, they have a completely inefficient, inept, incompetent government of this clown called Imran Khan. You've seen what has happened in Murray just a couple of days back, and complete lack of governance, an economy which is completely bankrupt. An international image which, is horrible. No aid coming in. Even the Chinese are kind of cut up with them. So at a time when Pakistan itself is in crisis, that entire, strategic framework which they had constructed, that the Sheikh Chilli dreams which they had, they seem to be collapsing. So they're going to be extremely concerned over this. it is going to cause them even more concern. The fact that the Iranians are jumping into this game and trying to play top dog, trying to be the intermediaries. It will cause them even greater concern that their proxies, the Haqqanis, are now being targeted by everybody else. And the fact that there is a slim, as of now, but a possibility of the Northern Alliance striking some kind of an understanding with the guys down south. So none of this looks very good for the Pakistanis. And I think it's going to add to the sense of discomfiture which exists in Rawalpindi.
Absolutely. Sushant, thank you for speaking to us. Shersha, thank you for breaking that story from Kabul. The only Indian channel consistently, reporting from Kabul despite the threats to journalists. In fact, a few of our reporters have been attacked in different parts of Afghanistan. Close to Panjshir, we've had some reporters being attacked. Shersha, still reporting fearlessly. Thank you very much, and stay safe, my friend. Shersha Nawabi breaking the story from Kabul as Republic get you the exclusive details.